All right, we're back, people. We officially kicked off the official podcasting season this past Sunday, and now we're back with Talkin Lost. After a nice little break that we needed, we're here to wrap season 1, and here we are, season 1, episode 20, I believe we're on, Deus Ex Machina, or as it's known in the more common translation, God in the Machine. Thank you, Luke, for correcting me before we got that started.
No, it's the machine from God.
Machine for God. Damn it, I screwed it up again. I don't know why I bother.
Maybe I'm screwing it up.
It's possible. Who knows? Oh, man. Got anything to say before we get this episode started? This is a good episode.
Oh, it's just good to be back on the island.
Yes, indeed. We are back with Lost. All right, Luke, we're in the home stretch, season 1. Only 4 episodes left after this one, and we are finally starting to get not quite some answers, but we're starting to get closer, I should say, to a conclusion of some sort. You know, like I said, we've had all of this stuff that we built up to for the first half of season 1, and then the second half of the season has primarily been focused on Michael and then building the raft. And also Locke and Boone off in the jungle after they, mysteriously stumbled upon the hatch. And the last couple of episodes, they've kind of been in the purview, not really being the focus. They've kind of just been off in the jungle, and people have kind of been like, oh, what are you guys doing? And now we finally get to see some results, some fruits of their labor, if they will, or so we think. But unfortunately, of course, as we discover in this episode, not everything always goes Locke's way. This is hard to believe that we're almost finished with this season, and this is only our second Locke backstory episode. And I would argue that even though Walkabout was a tremendously important episode, this one is the one that finally gives us the key insights into Locke as a character and why he functions the way that he does. We know why Jack is the man of science, as far as him, being entirely motivated in order to succeed where his father kind of failed. And in a way, Locke is as well, where Locke is also motivated by the failures of his parents. The only difference is that Locke is, I would say, as a result of both his parents' absenteeism and neglect, Locke is much more worse off for the wear. And as I've told you, I know they're constantly torturing and taking advantage of him does not end with this episode, but this is kind of the beginning of why we see why Locke is such a tragic character and how it's this interesting thing where, people who are children of neglectful parents can often sometimes place their faith in the wrong things. And as we see, even though the island has very much proved itself to not just be some other regular island, Locke definitely, as we've shown, is the man of faith, and this is kind of why. So what did you think going into this episode? First off, now that we finally actually get to see, how Locke and Boone are attempting to break open the hatch.
Yeah, so they pretty much dug a lot around the hatch just to see, I guess, if there's anything. That's probably what I would do. And then they've built a trebuchet, which is one of my favorite contraptions ever. Just it's a fun word to say. Obviously, that doesn't work because it's probably many inch thick glass, so they have to start all over again. But as it does with pretty much every Lost character, it goes back to backstory. As you said, Locke is one of the more tragic characters in the show. It's been a while since his first flashback episode, so yeah. It's great to see that developed further, as he is my favorite character as of now, and he still is after this episode because it's a Locke focused episode with some great side plots. And yeah, continuing the Man of Faith. There's a scene where he tells Boone about kind of what the island gave him. We'll get to that in a bit. So
right.
So yeah, that further establishing the Man of Faith, and I guess in further seasons there will be that contrast between him and Jack, as you allude to.
Yes, exactly. That's another big thing. Is this is the first time that he reveals to somebody that the island cured his ability, his inability rather to walk. Because that's also another kind of story development. Is after the failure of the trebuchet, he gets a piece of wood stuck in his leg, and even though it seems
he doesn't really feel it. Right.
He didn't really feel it, and then progressively throughout the episode, he starts losing his ability to walk again, and he's like, "Oh my God, the island gave me this gift. Now it's taking it away. How do I restore the island's faith in me?" So it's kind of a little bit of a reverse slate, if you will, where
Yeah, to
Locke
me, that's the island testing him. Like, okay, you really want to get this hatch open, but if I take away your legs, will you still persist
yes.
in your journey? So, hence the dream and the plane. So, like, even if ultimately the plane doesn't really lead to anything.
So it's
For
funny that,
now.
for now,
Yes.
yes. Like I said, it's funny that you mentioned that because, like I said, this is also the episode where we get, again, more island lore, as I call it, where, again, it's John is having dreams, flashbacks of his mother pointing in a certain direction, the plane for all lost heads, the smuggler's plane, crash landing on the island with the Virgin Mary statues filled to the brim with heroin. You can only imagine which other island character that's going to affect going forward. What's it called? And obviously the big one being that Boone is stuck in the plane when it falls off the ledge, and well, we're gonna see that may not necessarily have some good consequences. It may have some more tragic consequences in the second episode. And I will say too that this is the first instance of Locke's devotion to the island affecting other characters in negative ways, and it will not be the last time as well.
I would not expect it to be. This is
Yeah.
more like a hint of what his actions will lead to. That
Yes.
don't much consequence to him, but to the ones around him. So
Exactly. And it is kind of funny where even though Locke is one of those characters that always means well, but because of his kind of fanatical devotion and not necessarily willing to to take caution, like I said, it ends up affecting a lot of the characters around him in somewhat negative ways. And there's a reason why. I'll give you a hint right now. Locke's end is not only sticky, but ends up kind of being more perverse, if you will. And you'll see what I mean when we get to the last couple of seasons.
Locke gets freaky with the island?
It's something like that. More so like there may be a malevolent force on the island that Locke may or may not have come into contact with, who impersonates him, if you will, and starts messing around with the other survivors that way. Now, getting into Locke's flashback story, right? The big thing here is this is where we discover Locke's true parentage, right? He's working, you can tell this is several years before the flashbacks that we saw in Walkabout. Because he has hair. Exactly. He's working in a toy store. He's showing a kid like how the game of Mousetrap works. Remember Mousetrap? You ever played that as a kid?
I've never heard of Mousetrap.
So Mousetrap was always one of those games that I always wanted to play because it looked cool with all the different pieces, but I never actually got a chance to, and it always kind of looked a little bit too complicated, and I always needed somebody to show me how it would.
Does it have some relevance to what's happening on the island? I feel like shows
Not on
or
the
movies
island.
always do this.
It's one of those things where it's more so a metaphor of his life, where he's kind of trapped and, taken advantage of, as we see in this episode, where he sees some random woman with a fur coat and some red hair, who I know is played by a familiar actress, but it's funny because for a second I thought it was the same actress who played Tony's father's mistress, Fran Feldstein, in The Sopranos season 5, but it turned out it's a different actress entirely. He follows her out into the parking lot. She reveals that she's his mother. What's it called? Big thing that's revealed here is they're having lunch at a diner, and he's like, "Oh, you were chosen. You were immaculately conceived." Locke's immediately like, I'm smelling some bullshit right here. So he contacts, I believe that's a private investigator who he's talking to. That's just a funny visual, him talking to like a private investigator in the back of the toy store where he works. The investigator reveals that his mother was mentally ill, was in and out of asylums, was on medication, whatnot, but that his father, who is real, is kind of, he mentions, it's like, look, when the father doesn't want to be contacted, it usually doesn't end well. And Locke's like, I want to know. So he tells him his father's a figure named Anthony Cooper, who was an important figure who we will not see. This is not the last that we will see of him. Anthony Cooper, as we later come to find out, is a con man, but at first when he goes to meet him, he seems very jovial, very sweet, like, oh, your mother, your mother disappeared, I always wanted kids, but your mother disappeared. Next thing you know, she turns up begging for money. So naturally, he, of course, is attempting to use this as a bonding experience. They start hanging out. They start getting to know each other. They, shoot birds, whatever. Then one day, Locke turns up conveniently right when Anthony Cooper is getting a dialysis treatment. He's in need of a kidney. And then after a couple of more duck hunting trips, Locke graciously volunteers to donate his kidney to his father. They go under for the treatment. He wakes up, and Cooper is gone. And his mother shows up and reveals that this whole thing was a good old-fashioned con to get Locke to give him one of his kidneys. And, well, oh, man, I don't know, Luke. Have you ever had a family member try to swindle you out of a kidney before?
Not yet. No, after this, I'll have to keep an eye out.
Definitely going to be on the lookout for it going forward. Yeah, it's not fun, like I said, and this is kind of the beginning. It's so funny how, this kind of inspires Locke's faith, because I don't know, after a thing like that, I wouldn't trust anyone. I wouldn't trust anyone. I wouldn't,
So that's kind of why he gravitates to an unnatural force.
Yes,
almost,
exactly.
So.
Exactly. It makes a lot of sense.
Damn good writing.
Yeah, it's really, really good stuff. Not to mention the fact that, like I said, this will not, consider the fact that this is not the last time that he has interactions with his parents. Especially
they want his other kidney too?
Well, so. Yeah, it's possible. Not to mention the fact that Anthony Cooper, as I mentioned before, is Locke's connection to another character on the island. And since Anthony Cooper is a con man, I bet you can figure out which one. But yeah, it's.
I'm gonna guess Kate.
Nope.
Or Sawyer. Then?
There we go.
There you go. That was, it was between them.
Yeah, so. It's one of the two. Speaking of Sawyer, this is also the episode I forgot where they discovered that the source of Sawyer's headaches is the fact that he needs reading glasses. But it gives Jack a good opportunity to kind of make fun of him and mock him for a little bit. Just be like.
Well, that's just another great Lost side plot. That yes. Will Sawyer needing glasses become like a big plot thread? I don't know.
No.
But it's just a nice piece of filler to balance out the screwing over of Locke to just yes. Sawyer needs glasses.
Yeah, Sawyer needs glasses. Jack finally gets a little bit of a comeback after Sawyer has, created unnecessary wonton problems for him. But they're starting to bond a little bit. But like I said, Locke is having dreams. He's losing his ability to walk. But it finally causes him to come clear with Boone, who's starting to question everything. Being like, listen, Boone, I couldn't walk before we got to the island. The island restored my ability to walk, and now it is testing us in some capacity. And Boone is going back and forth and back and forth. He's like, do I trust this guy? Like, really, why am I? Obviously, again, he's kind of attached to the hip at Locke after his whole solo vision quest, if you will, where he literally thought that he, where he literally saw his sister die, but it turned out it was all a hallucination. And, because Locke put the weird cactus juices, I'm going to call it, on him. And so he leads him, what's it called? That they're stumbling into the jungle. They manage to find the smuggler's plane. He tells Boone, you have to go up in there because I can't walk. I can't do it. Boone goes in. He discovers nothing but the crates full of the Virgin Marys filled with heroin. He gets on the radio in order to try and contact somebody else. He does hear somebody else on the radio, right. But then the plane falls off. And Boone is, he's worse for the wear. He's not good at all. Locke gets him back to the caves. Jack starts treating him. But then, of course, by that point, Locke is gone. He's back at the hatch. He's banging on the door, being like, I don't understand. I did everything you wanted. Why? Why are you doing this to me? And then you see a little light shining from inside the cabin. Is it a halo? Is it the island restoring Locke's faith? What could it possibly be? Could it be absolutely nothing? Could it just be whoever is in the hatch working on whatever it is that they are working on? Who knows? Who knows? But we're going to have to find out. But all I'm going to say is this is a very tragic episode. We haven't had that a whole lot. I feel like the only tragic episodes we've had so far, I mean, obviously, yeah, you could argue that every single island character backstory is a tragedy, but this is the one where I would say it shows why Locke is the most tragic character. It shows why, of all the characters that have come to the island, Locke right now seems to be the one that's the most attached to it. And yeah, it's sad to say the least, honestly, how, again, Locke, you can tell, is a character who is going to constantly place his faith in the wrong things. I'm not going to say that puts him at a disadvantage to Jack because, for the most part, Locke is the one that still has the strongest connection to the island. And so, therefore, he does tend to be right more often than wrong. But, unfortunately, it does cause him to, again, place his faith in certain of the wrong things. So, what did you think of this episode overall?
Yeah, this is what, with my brief experience of Lost, this is what they're good at. Even if they don't answer every island mystery related question, they do answer the character motivation personality type questions. So, and yeah, just like you said at the beginning of this whole thing, it's more about the characters, their journeys, and not quite the mystery of the island. And that's usually what I prefer in TV shows, at least. That it's more character focused than event focused. Like Game of Thrones. Like I watched that show for the characters most of all, and the events are almost secondary. And this show is kind of the same so far. But I'm also very interested in the mysteries.
Yeah, it
of
is
the
kind of
island.
interesting how similar the trajectories of those shows. Again, these shows both start off very, very character focused. Those are when we really, really like the shows. And then when the show stops being about the character, it becomes more about the action, the spectacle, the plot, the sci-fi-ness of it all. Again, it doesn't stop being the show, but it kind of loses everybody. And both final seasons had negative reactions. Now, will we have as much of a negative reaction to Lost, especially since Lost's original IP, as opposed to being based off of a book series the way the Game of Thrones was? We shall see in time. But for now, like I said, we are in the home stretch. Only 4 more episodes to go. We have Do No Harm next week, which is a Jack episode. Then The Greater Good, which is our second Saeed episode. Then Born to Run, which is our third Kate episode. Oh my God. Why? And then we have the season 1 finale, Exodus. So all of those will be.
And that's a 2 or 3-parter?
That's a massive 3-parter.
This is going to be a long episode.
It's going to be a long episode, but we're going to have a lot to cover with it, like I said. And then we're taking our 2-week break for February, and then we're kicking off season 2 at the end of February, and we are not stopping until the final weekend of December this year. So like I said, get ready, because we have got a lot more Lost to cover in 2025. So, Luke, with that being said, we are back on the island indeed. Where can the good people follow you on the interwebs?
Well, I would have mentioned that over our break, I watched some things. I do watch other things than Lost. Squid Game season 2.
Yes.
That was pretty good. I was never like season 1's greatest thing ever, but I quite enjoyed it. And season 2, yeah, you can tell Netflix made him stretch it to 3 seasons, but I think he'll get it done in the 3rd one. And yesterday, I watched Nosferatu.
All right, talk about it. What'd you think?
I think give Robert Eggers whatever the hell he wants to do, because whatever his shtick is, he's absolutely nailed it down. I'd say the first half is like an 11 out of 10, and the rest is still pretty good. I struggle to contain myself from doing the Count Orlok voice.
Yeah, it's
since
tough.
then, it's like
it's tough.
It is a black omen, but I can't do it. So just let Bill Skarsgård play all the celestial evil beings that he can. This and
Yes.
Pennywise, being just standout performances, and it has made my top 10. So we'll have to talk about it a little more on the Look Reviews YouTube channel.
Yes, sir.
February probably.
Yes, can't wait to see that. Your videos are always very entertaining to me. And, of course, you guys can follow me with everything going on at Movie Nerd Reviews across all platforms, at Official Talkin TV Podcast. Like I said, we are back. And like I said, we're going to get this done. We've also got our 2024 wrap-up lists coming for the rest of the month. We're doing top 10. We are doing top 10 worst movies of the year on Sunday. So that's going to be fun right there. And then, of course, we're doing best of movies and TV shows in order to wrap up January. So we'll be doing that before we start doing some new stuff for 2025 in the new year. So with that being said, like I said, we've got a full year of content planned. So as always, stay tuned and get lost. We'll see you guys next time.